thank you for the good introduction. And yeah, we're going to start off by presenting what we did for Sportmaster. And as Karina said, we're going to start with some deep dives, then we're going into our SWOT. And lastly, we're also going to present our opportunity rooms. Yes. So the first part is our focus points and our deep dive into the retail audit. And the first thing we're going to talk about is our visual merchandising assessment. Starting off by looking at some of the trends that is in the environment right now. What we see a lot is stores going towards showrooming, which means displaying less product in the stores and having a more cleaner look. What we also see is that the stores implementing these concepts are actually making more money per square meter. Think of examples as Apple, who has really few products in store, but presented really nice and cleanly, and they're making a lot of money per square meter. And it also gives the advantages of really clean looking, really organized stores. So the situation we analyzed in Sportmaster, we looked at first the mystery shopping report. And what we found is that when you look at the store and when you approach it, it looks very nice, good impact zones, but our mystery shopper had some troubles finding a way in the store because of the way the products were displayed. Then we looked at the mix of the marketing material. We looked at the physical evidence and how, again, the product was displayed. And we saw that the blend between the showroom that they're trying to implement with the newly renovated store that we see here, that they're trying to do some showrooming, but they also have more department store looking displays. And then they have something that's normal retail that we see in every sports store.
Okay, so over here. I'm going to be talking a little about Omnichannel, because Omnichannel, when you deal with Sportmaster, is quite important because they are actually considered a pioneer within this area. So I want to talk a little about where are we getting this from. The Omnichannel analysis is based on three things. It is the online survey we've made, it is observational trends, and then it's built on this interview we had the pleasure of doing with Morten in his store here in Ludwig. So just to sum up, it's becoming the standard norm in the industry that stores should be accessible to the customers across multiple channels. That is the physical store and the online store. And in terms of applying an omnichannel approach, Sportmaster, one could argue, is right now actually doing fairly well. They have consistency in prices across channels. They have convenient and tailored platforms for shopping options, meaning they are on the mobile platform as well, which is tailored to the mobile. They have online purchases available from store using the iStore concept, very omnichannel thinking. So what we're dealing with in general is what could be considered a very good and more modern consumer-centric omnichannel approach. The challenge is, and this is the visualization here is going to be a little tricky. The challenge is that in terms of organizational structure, we're still dealing with the physical store and the online store separately. And what I mean is they have their own budget, they have their own cost structure, they are measured on individual conversion rates and basket size. And going back to the trends, one of the trends we identified within customer journey is this new non-linear way of thinking about customer journey. That is, if we look at the physical store and the Sportmaster online store, it might very well be that the customer is interacting several times within each channel. That is the physical store and the online store. And each time there is an interaction here, there's resource drawn from either the physical channel or the online channel. But at the end, eventually, the revenue is going to come into one of the two channels. That is, even though there are resources being drawn from both, at the end, there's only going to be revenue allocated to one channel. So if you think about customer showrooming, that is customers who are in the store and then buying online, or the vice versa, customers who are online and then buying in the store. In both cases, they're utilizing both the physical store and the online store, and at the end, both channels' conversion rates can suffer from this, because at the end, as I said, it's only be allocated to one department. recent retail study have shown that 35% of shoppers web room and 2% showroom. So there's a quite big difference here. Of course, one can argue that money earned by Sportmaster is money earned regardless of which channel it comes from. But the thing is, if we continue to look at them divided as having their own budget, we need to be very keen on how the shifts in conversion rates be, because a low conversion rate appearing in one of the channels is not necessarily bad as long as it's made up for by purchased in the other channel. So we need to think about it more sort of interacted. And the good idea is we can actually track a lot of this information between the shifter channel using the CRM system that Sportmaster has implemented.
Next, we would like to look at customer service trends. The first trend we have identified within customer service is actually that retail staff is mostly made up of uneducated and young people, and this is an issue. And one reason could be that retail is discouraging as a career because it offers like low pay. And then we can also see that there are limits on education. For example, there might be new law implemented in the near future, which allows to pursue only one degree, and the voting will be held today, which is Friday. Next trend we would like to look at is that there are high service expectations, meaning that customers became very demanding. They have high expectations also on guidance. For example, they want the answers to be like given at the moment and fast. And looking at service expectation, we can also identify. We can also see that in marketing we always look at 4 P's within customer assessment, but in retail we are shifting towards 4 C's, which is entirely focused on customers. And lastly, we'd like to look at increased usage of in-store technology. It can be guiding the customers within the store or guiding the staff to optimize customer service. Yeah.
So I would like to shortly focus on our mystery shopper insights and focus on customers. The current situation is that sadly the customer service doesn't live up to the expectations and standards of today's customer service, and that might result in that customers are not really keen on returning to the store. And we picked out some of the quotes that we found on our mystery shopper report. And the main problems were that the staff was not having enough knowledge or skills to recommend products, or the staff was really busy or couldn't notice the customer walking in or being in the store in first 2 or 3 minutes. And the customer also had to approach the staff by himself, and that is not really like acceptable way in nowadays customer service. So we think that this is a room for improvement.
Our last insight we're going to talk about is the internal processes. And as some of you might know, Sportmaster is a chain. There's 95 stores, which also means that they have a high degree of standardization. And this often happens with capital change. You can look at IKEA, you can look at H&M. It's a trend and it's across the market. But this also means that it's hard to customize each store to the market. And the same goes from the one in Lyngby. And as you can see, we have some pictures. This is Sportmaster Kolding. This is Fisketårnet. And they're small, but behind you on the board, they are of Lyngby. And to be honest, I was browsing pictures of Sportsmaster, just Googling, and I couldn't tell if it was Lyngby, Kolding, Fisketårnet, Østerbro I was looking at, because they have the same look. This also has something to do with the high degree of control from management. Because when you're operating a store and trying to do it efficiently, you often need some high degree of control to be sure that everything is run to have the highest profit margin. But again, this means that if you have a high degree of control from management, you're not fully utilizing the knowledge that store managers have. And that's a shame because they pick up a lot in their everyday life.
So we have arrived at the SWOT, the key analysis conclusion. Just one more. And this sort of sums up the conclusions from our analysis. I will not go through all of them because there are quite a lot, but what we should do here is we should focus on the ones we have colored red. So the idea is, of course, here that you sort of see the link between the SWOT and the 5 areas we just looked at. So for example, when I talked about the omnichannel, I was dealing internally, so I was dealing up here in strengths and weaknesses. So I talked about the strength being an implementing a running omnichannel approach, and the weakness, that is also a strength, could be that the possible rivalry between online channel and physical store. And this was concerned with how the money is allocated in the end. Yeah.
Next, we would like to talk about some opportunity rooms we have identified, and we think Sportmaster could work on them. And opportunity rooms are about how to create value for a company, so we think these would be fairly interesting for you. First one is visual merchandising. The story goes from one of many to unique. Based on insights such as touchpoint analysis, mystery shopper report, and industry trends, the questions would be: how can we utilize visual merchandising to create a better customer experience? How can we make a fluent in-store experience while using vendor merchandise? And the last one, how can we improve the placement of fixtures and racks in the store to make the shop experience better? Yes, the next one, opportunity room, we think, which is very interesting, is also omnichannel. The story goes from consumer-centric omnichannel to organizational omnichannel. Based on insights such as omnichannel survey, technology trends, interview with the store manager, we would like to ask the question: how can we develop an organizational structure compatible with omnichannel implementation?
So the next one would be personalized experience, which is important in today's retail. And the story is going from guessing about your customers to actually knowing your customers. And the questions the insights we based our questions on were based on mystery shopper report, technology trends, and social trends. And the questions are: how can we develop more on-the-floor staff, usable target groups? How can we use different platforms to reach our customers in a more personalized way? And how can we use previous purchasing data to get more personalized? The next one would be the staff, and the story goes from going from regular customer service to shopper focused service. And the insights were based on interview with the store manager, shopper marketing analysis, and mystery shopper reports. And also the questions go: how can we ensure that the more talented and passionate people pursue career in retail? How can we use technology and data to make staff better at recognizing and approaching customers? And how can we make sure that the staff has the level product knowledge expected by customers? And the third one would be internal communication, and the story is going from information distribution to information sharing. And the insights are also interview with store manager, organizational analysis, and business trends. And the questions go: how can we utilize the knowledge that the store managers possess for better choice of SKU? How can we better motivate the employees to provide excellent customer service? And how can we use the staff's knowledge to better adapt the local environment? So these are the opportunity rooms we think are positive.
Yeah. And these are the ones we're going to proceed working with after this day.
That was it from us, and we thank you for listening, and we are up for questions if you have any.
Right, so you have invited for questions. Are there any who would like to ask the team a question? I can start, just for start here. Because one of your opportunity rooms was also discussing how you could work and train staff to more locally adapt. And you said in your survey, in your research, that you saw a problem, or at least you mentioned it, that this chain as many capital chains are quite centrally controlled, and that makes it difficult to adapt locally. So, and why is it important for Sportmaster to adapt locally? Why not look at, as a customer, I know exactly what a Sportmaster is. Whatever Sportmaster enters is the same. That's nice, isn't it? So why do you think it's important for Sportmaster to adapt to the local environment?
Well, it's built on this basic consumer trend that customers are becoming more wary of these very standardized approaches, and they prefer a more personalized and customized, because it's also when we think in terms of differentiation, because there are a lot of department stores selling sporting clothes, so it is a way of doing something different and gaining some kind of competitive advantage. Because it's also linked to what we talked about with the service. It seems like in the industry now they keep over battling each other on service, and it's sort of like a race, because when one retailer implements new service level, the other ones follow up, and then they try to gain the competitive edge this way. And the more we see it more as being, you can go this more customized local adaptation, and then you can use a competitive advantage better and more sustainable.
Okay. Are there any other questions from all of you, the rest of the students? You're also welcome to ask a question if you have one burning question. No, it does not seem so. So, okay, well, thank you very much once again. Yeah.